Hi, I'm Michelle Fayman, and I'm the Director of the Lake County Board of Election and Registration. And the segment that we're going to talk about today is the Forms book and what it's used for on Election Day. So the first thing that is on here is on the cover. It's going to tell you the quantity of each form, the form name, and the actual form number, PRE1 and so forth. One thing I like to do is I like to put tabs on here to kind of help me find them quicker on Election Day. So the very first thing we have is the oath. The oath for the inspector, judges, and the clerks will sign off on an oath prior to Election Day. Also part of that series is the Certificate of Ballot Agreement, and that's going to show that you have matched up your ballot on your voting machine with the sample ballots that are in your kit. It will also attest to that your electronic poll book is at 0, that no one has been entered yet. You will also record the opening and closing of the polls. So at 6 a.m. you will state that you opened on time, and at the end of the day you will state what time you closed. Another section indicates how many people were in line at 6 a.m., at 12:30 in the afternoon, and at 6 p.m. Just simply a number of how many people were in line. The next thing we come across is the Affidavit of Assistance, and it's a two-part form. The first part is for an affidavit of the voter can designate anyone they choose to assist them. Now, it cannot be their employer, it cannot be a union agent also. And in here, if a person has disabilities or cannot read and write the English language, they can have anyone they choose assist them. They simply fill out this form and again, leave it in the forms book. That voter would then be able to go into the voting machine and assist the voter. Now, if the voter does not bring someone with them, then it would be the two judges could go in and assist them. This form is filled out prior to entry into the voting booth. The next thing we have is a PRE5. PRE5 is if a voter has applied for an absentee ballot and never received it. On the iPad, it's going to show that one was issued to them. The voter can fill out this form attesting to that they never received it, and then they would be eligible to vote on the voting machine. Now, voters can also bring in their ballot and forfeit it to you as the inspector, and then they could also vote. But if they never received it and they don't have it with them, they need to fill out the PRE5 attesting that they never received it. The next form is the PRE7, and that's for if one of your poll workers was disqualified. And one of the reasons why they could be disqualified, and as they're taking the oath, and it says I'm not related to someone on the ballot, they might go, oh, my cousin's running, and they would be disqualified. So this is the form that you would fill out to disqualify them. After you disqualify them, you're going to want to appoint a new person, which would be the very next form, the PRE8. In this case, you would move up the highest ranking, you would move them up in the order of their rank. So inspector, judges, and the clerks. So if the judge was disqualified, the clerk would move to the judge's position, and then you would hire the next available voter who is qualified to serve. And in this case, they would fill out the replacement form. You would also have them sign the oath. Also make sure they go on the pay claim. Next form after that is the PRE10. And this is an affidavit indicating if you were to use ballot cards for some reason. So in other words, if you're using emergency ballots, you are going to attest that you have sealed them in the envelope and close them and sign off on it, and that you do not permit anyone else to have access to. The next form is the PRE16, which is the audit. And there's a whole nother section in videos that will really go into detail on here. But what this does is it's matching up to make sure at any given time during the day that your voting machine matches your iPad. And they should always match. Some of the reasons why they may not match, though, is our next form, which is the PRE19. And this is used for our first responders. So your police officers, your firefighters, your EMS personnel, and so forth. Say they're in the polling place and they've already signed in on the iPad and get called out on an emergency call prior to going to the voting machine. These are the only individuals that are allowed to re-enter if they did not get to cast their vote. Otherwise, if you left before that, the voter left and didn't vote, you will need to note that on the PRE16 to show that your numbers do not match. But first responders can come back if they were called on an emergency call. Next form VRG 412. This form is used quite often during election day. And what this form does is it allows someone who is no longer at their address where they're still on the iPad listed. So when a voter signs in and they go, oh, that's not my address, this is the form we go to. It allows someone for a number of different reasons. It could be that they did not have time to change their residency within the last 30 days before the election. It could also mean they moved regardless of time, but still remained within the same county and same congressional district. And if this was a municipal election, they would have to stay in the same municipality also. And or the third category is if their address was canceled due to a countywide mailing and they've been canceled but still remain at the same address. The voter will fill this out. They will tell us their old information, old name maybe, maiden name also, their old address and their new address. They are entitled to vote one last time at your precinct where they remain on your poll list, and then we will change them after the election. As part of this series, the next form in here is the VRG 11, and this form is a brand new voter registration. So when we have them do the VRG 412, we also want the 11, and then we will move them to the correct address for the next election. So whenever someone moves, you have two forms to fill out. The last in our series is Cancellation Form. It's called the VRG 14. Every now and then, you will find a parent or someone who comes in and says, I keep getting mail for my son or daughter who moved 20 years ago and living in another state. I want you to take them off the rolls. Well, we cannot just take someone's word for it. We need to have it in writing. So in this case, tear off one of these forms, hand it to the parent and say, please mail this to your son or daughter and return it to us, and we will happily take them off for the next election. That concludes our forms book. If you have any questions, always reach out to us.